as well or even better. And anyway, I would lie when I didn't have to. And it's because I was terrified of the truth. It's like an old sweater. If somebody gets a hold of a little piece of it, starts pulling, there's no telling what they might pull out. I just lied all the time. A friend of mine says that rigorous honesty is kind of like scotch. It's an acquired taste. You know, it takes a while to buy into it. And I'll tell you something else. Being innocent takes a while to get used to also. It really takes a while to get used to being innocent, to not have that crisis mentality and worrying about stuff all the time. That's been a beautiful thing for me. So the time that I need to be is right here, right now. All the good questions contain the word today, and all the good answers contain the word today. And I need to quit asking questions. I've got 3 vocabularies: speaking, praying, and thinking. I need to use the word today frequently in all 3 of those if I'm going to be sane. I got to stay here, right now. There's one who has all power. That one is God. May you find him now. Now isn't when I find God, it's where. I find him right here. And when I leave right here, I go alone, and I'm in bad company. That's why the future is so dangerous for me mentally, because my God's not in the future. I think there's a single exception to that. I believe if a sponsor will hold one hand, that God will hold the other while we go into my past to do step work. That's been my experience. Other than that, when I leave right now, I'm all alone. My time travel machine is a 1-seater, and I'm in bad company when I'm alone. Anyway, continuing on page 8, Bill describes this 4th dimension in his own terms. Y'all forgive me, this scar tissue in my throat requires that I drink a lot of water, which gives me another part-time job. I'm hoping going to put in abeyance until this meeting is over. Maybe so, maybe not. Bill says, I wish to know happiness, peace, and usefulness in a way of life that's incredibly more wonderful as time passes. Happiness, I get that. Aristotle said that's what everyone wants, is to be happy. Peace, yeah, I want to be quiet in here. What in the world is usefulness doing on that list? Only 3 things. How is useful? The answer to the question is that usefulness is that pathway to happiness and peace. It is the pathway. It's the way to get there. There's not a single theme in this book that runs wider and deeper than being useful or helping others, which is really the same thing. The only other theme I can find that happens on more than 2 places, well, I just thought of another one. The other one that's in here the most is some what I know for sure ain't so. I don't have time to cover that tonight, but I can quote you about 6 pages where it says that in various language. So this thing about being useful, on page 84 in what we affectionately call the 9th step promises, in the 3rd line, he says that feeling of uselessness and self-pity will disappear. What in the world are uselessness and self-pity doing? How did they get matched up? The answer for me is that the way out of self-pity, also known as depression, is through being useful. When I'm just feeling terrible, the best thing I can do is take a meeting into one of the gated communities. That's a jail, you know, or a treatment center, or call a newcomer and ask him how he's doing and listen. To go be useful. It's an astonishing thing. It's absolutely astonishing. I read the book one particular time with an eye toward how many times and how many places did it tell me to be of use or help others, which is the same thing. I counted 54 places from Roman numeral 11 through Dr. Bob's story. I have found more since then. It's all over this book, that's where the magic is. And when I'm being useful, everything else is okay with me. It's also the path to answers. In the story of freedom from bondage, I had no idea we were going to cover this tonight. Page 551, I think most of you are probably familiar with it. It's one of the most famous pages in this book. She says, one morning, however, I realized I had to get rid of it. That's a resentment against her mother. For my reprieve, that's a stay of execution, was running out. And if I didn't get rid of it, I was going to get drunk, and I didn't want to get drunk anymore. And that in my prayers that morning, I asked God to point out to me some way to be free of resentment. During the day, a friend of mine brought me some magazines to take to a hospital group I was interested in. I turned 2 pages, no wonder. Hospital group I was interested in. I looked through them. A banner across one featured an article by a prominent clergyman, in which I caught the word resentment. I want to talk about the sequence of events. The sequence of events is phenomenal. Item one, she saw something about herself that needed work. Not something wrong with her. There's nothing wrong with any of us. We're God's kids. Nothing wrong with us. Something needed work. Now, I would add, for me, talk to a spiritual advisor of some kind. Item three, get involved in trying to do something for someone else. Item four, answer falls out of the sky on her. It's a predictable sequence of events. When I've got a real problem, I need to take me again to the jail. When I come out of the jail, the answer is sitting in the back seat of my car. It's on my answering machine. It's in the mailbox when I get home. It's astonishing. It's absolutely astonishing. And it's amazing how many times I have my own answers. I quit praying for guidance 35 years ago. Stopped it flat. I was sober 2 years. I was praying for guidance one morning. This is my perspective on it now. Item one, I was telling God what to do. I don't have a real good history with that. God's hard to train. Some of you may have noticed that. So that's the first piece with it. The second piece is it occurred to me that a loving God was sending that guidance every day as a free and clear gift. I was asking for what had already been given. I had to get out of that business. So what I ask is that I don't miss his guidance today. I think he sends it every day as a free and clear gift. The question is, am I alert to it? That's part of my morning prayers. I ask him that I don't miss his guidance. And anyway, this particular morning, I really had something heavy going on. And I prayed that if you've got guidance from me, please don't let me miss it today. I had a privilege of sponsoring a fellow who lives in Kiev, Ukraine. And he called me during the day with a question about a guy he sponsored in Moscow, Russia. And I heard me telling him my answer. Those are the kinds of things that happens here. And I can see about 25 of you. I'm going to ask you a question. And I want to ask you, just raise a hand if you've had this experience. Someone asked you a question you did not know the answer to the moment before they asked, and you open your mouth and not BS, but a piece of the great golden truth that you didn't know falls out. And 3 hours later, you can't quote it. Sometimes you can't even remember it. Put up your hand if you've had that experience. Dadgum near all of you. Yeah, isn't that just phenomenal? What an amazing experience that is. Boy, if you're new, wait till that one hits you in the face one time. That's a phenomenal experience. And by the way, if you are new, our mission here is not to try to change you so you don't ever drink again or take alcohol substitutes. That's not it. The mission is to change you so you never want to. And although you may not be able to imagine that, I've been living it since December of 84, sober since June of 84. I'd had a sponsor for a month or so. I was somewhere in the step work the last time I wanted one. That's all I can tell you. Life has happened since then, and it continues to happen. And I have to keep coming back. Page 15. And Bill's story, and I think if there's an answer in this book to this question about emotional sobriety, it's here on page 15, which I'm probably going to find here sometime this evening or maybe early in the morning. Here we go. My wife and I abandoned ourselves with enthusiasm to the idea of helping other alcoholics to a solution of their problems. It was fortunate. My old business associates remained skeptical for 1.5 years, during which I found little work. Now, here we go. I was not too well at the time, and I was plagued. Listen to the power in these words. Plagued by waves of self-pity and resentment. All right. There's that lack of emotional sobriety right there. Self-pity and resentment. This sometimes nearly drove me back to drink. I soon found that when all other measures failed, work with another alcoholic would save the day. Many times I've gone to my old hospital in despair. The word despair means without hope. Listen to the power in these words. My old hospital in despair. I'm talking to a man there. I'd be amazingly lifted up and set on my feet. It is designed for living. It works with rough going. The answer to my problem is to try to help you. It makes no sense at all. It's what works. It's what works. Me working on the problem doesn't work. My sponsor told me years ago that my character defects were all self-centered without exception. And self can't push self out of the center. If it could, it would leave a vacuum. The 7-step prayer does not ask for God to remove all my character defects, just the ones that stand in the way of my usefulness. I've got 3 that I call my spiritual barometers. And they are lying, well, actually improving the truth is how I like to think of it. Lying, swearing, and being angry at you in traffic. If you happen to get your driver's license out of a Cheerios box, Um, and if I notice one of those is out, if I look, they're all out. They travel together. And I can't change me. If I could change me, I wouldn't be here with you tonight. I can't change me, but I can change what I do today. And as I do that day after day after day, I become changed. But I don't change me. I don't have the power. So if I hear myself swearing or lying, or I'm angry with you in traffic, what I do is I check my spiritual program of the last week or 10 days. What's my meeting count? What's morning prayer and meditation look like? Have I talked to my sponsor? If I talk to him, did I tell him the truth? What's my sponsorship of with these beautiful men I'm privileged to sponsor? Am I present when I talk to them? Am I an open channel? Am I saying please and thank you? Do I let people in traffic? Am I reading spiritual literature? What's my meeting? There's a hole somewhere. There's a hole somewhere. Usually for me, it's meditation. Meditation works so well for me that I tend to stop doing it. That probably makes sense to you. And I plug that hole, and 2 days later, you could cut me off in traffic and almost hit me. And I will smile at you, and I'll wave my hand, and I'll wave all 5 fingers all at once, same one. And I'll say, God, wow, thank you. I'm so grateful that I smelled he might cut me off, and I had a foot on the brake, and I avoid an accident. It would have been his fault, but I would have been in an accident, and thank you. And by the way, please go with that child today. I make mistakes like that myself. And I can't change myself from the raving maniac a couple of days ago that wanted to chase him 3 more exits. I can't change me. As my sponsor said, I don't focus on the darkness. What I do is I invite the light in, and the light comes and the darkness flees, for it cannot exist in the light. My job is not to focus on the darkness. My job is to get focused on the light. Some people come to recovery because they feel the heat, others because they see the light. I'm a heat type. I came to save my job. But the heat will bring me here, but it won't keep me here. It's necessary, I believe, to develop a hunger for the light. And I think that's what this thing is about. It's about developing a hunger for the light. Another piece of my morning prayer is I ask God to help me to be a great listener today. I think that's a very loving action. To be a great giver today. And I don't just mean financially. I mean of my time, of my effort, of my prayers, anything I've got, to be a great giver. And I ask him very specifically to help me not miss any chances to spread love or joy or to be of service today. And so toward that, this is the mask that I wear. And I've been wearing it for a very long time. I've been carrying the clown noses in my car for a long time because when the interstate comes to a stop, rather than sit there and just be angry, what I do is put on a clown nose and try to get the attention of the people around me, because they're stuck in traffic too. And they start grinning and laughing. It makes me grin and laugh. I've discovered if I'm sloshing joy all over you, it splatters onto me every time. There's no way to block it. Can't be done. If we stay stopped, I put it in park and get out and start passing out clown noses. I buy them 100 at a time. And I also carry them. Yeah, Olaf, you look good in it. I carry them with me all the time. I gave away some today in a retail store. And I also carry, I'm not sure how well you can see this. I also carry bubbles to give away. I buy these 100 at a time. And I'm telling you, this spread and joy thing is really neat. And it brings me right into the moment. I tell you, you can't blow bubbles and be somewhere else mentally. And you can't put on your clown nose and continue to carry a bad attitude. It just can't be done. And it's been such a joy to me. So I ask him to bless me, that I not only am present in my own life today, and I don't miss any of his guidance, but I don't miss any chances to spread love or joy or to be of service. And when that's my focus, see, I can't get out of me. When I get into me, I get sick, but I can't get out of me, but I can get into you. And if I get into you as a side effect, I'm out of me. So that's why I think it's so important. I think that's why it's all over this book, is because that's where the magic is. That's where the magic is. And I had an experience within the last year, and I just don't know when it was. I was sitting by a stream, and I did not even have my fishing tackle. Those who know me will be amazed. And I was looking across the stream, and there was a thunderstorm. And it occurred to me, every drop of rain in that thunderstorm has fallen God's will perfectly. I know it is. And I saw a bird in the tree. I thought that bird is too. I looked at the minnows in the stream. I thought they are too. Why can't I? And I got my answer. And the answer is I am. I am. I am convinced to the depths of my soul that it's not my job to be perfect. It's not. Well, if it's not my job to be perfect, by definition, my job is to make mistakes. And I'm good at it. Well, they sent the right guy. And I'm convinced that planet Earth is a school. I'm pretty sure I flunked out of someplace else, or I was tossed out as a behavior problem. Look at my history. It makes perfect sense. And the first lesson was, what does it look like when I run wide open after my own will? How's that working out? And it's step 3, am I willing to trade that in sight unseen on his will? I got to have a God that loves me if I'm going to do that. And it's a really important thing to have a loving God. But I thought, it's okay that I make mistakes. It's not only okay, that's my assignment. It's why I'm here. It's why I was stuck in this skin. It's so that I could make mistakes. And they've been telling me all my life, well, we learn from our mistakes. Well, if it's true, I'm not looking at anybody that's got more than one DUI. Good luck. Yeah, right. Guys like me don't learn from our mistakes. We learn from living with the results of our mistakes. Hold that thought, read the 12 steps. Half of them are about embracing the results of my mistakes. That's where the learning occurs. So here's the learning process as I understand it today. Item 1, make a mistake. Item 2, be notified I made a mistake. I don't always know. Item 3, don't beat myself up, but embrace the mistake. Own it. If they only know 80%, I got to tell them the other 20. It's how I owe it. Item 4, consult a spiritual advisor about how to. Item 5, make an amend. Usually there's an amend, not always. 6, embrace the lesson. A mistake is just an invitation to a lesson. A mistake is a lesson dressed in its work clothes. And the evidence is, if I'd already learned the lesson, I would not have made the mistake. It's just an invitation. And I don't have the power to make a lesson so ugly, make a mistake so ugly that he can't turn it into something wonderful. It's who I am, it's who he is, it's how it is. That's the deal. This is why I'm here, is to make these mistakes. And item 7 is to share the lesson, which is where I really it's where I embrace the lesson. And item 8 is when I share the lesson, I have to tell you I made a mistake. If I just share the lesson I'm preaching, nobody wants to hear it. When I stand as a sinner beside a sinner, he can hear me. That's a learning process. We use the word progress. I'm going to give you my definition. Progress is making the same old mistake a little less often, or making a new and finer quality of mistake. Anything beyond that's perfection. That's not the assignment. It's just simply not the assignment. So I know what God's will is. It's for me to walk humbly in his presence today. Check in with him in the morning, check out with him at night, talk to him some during the day. Treat you guys like brothers and sisters. Look for chances to be of service and love and spread joy. Let people in traffic. Say please and thank you. Try to lift other people's spirits. When I was diagnosed with this cancer, that's what I realized. My assignment was to lift the spirits of the people that tried to cheer me up. I don't need to be cheered up. I'm sitting in God's lap. I'm doing just fine. My fear of death has been gone for a long time. 30 odd years ago, I had a pretty serious problem and was on the way being rushed to a hospital and thought I might be dying. And it occurred to me I'd offered God my will and my life. I'd never offered him my death. So I did that. I said, I'm not asking to go. It's time and it's your will. Take me. My fear of death's pretty much been gone since then. You know, death has got kind of a bad reputation in our society. And I think that's a shame. Because if you'll think about it, it was invented by the very same God who invented smallmouth bass, watermelon, and sex. Good job. Right? Same guy. I've seen his work. I think it's a great adventure. I'm kind of excited. I'm 78 years old. I'm kind of excited about it. I want to see that big spot on Jupiter that's twice the size of Earth. And I want to visit some of the other civilizations I'm sure are strewn among the cosmos. And I want to see one of those stellar clouds up close. And I want to walk through the pearly gates and hug my mother and thank her again for being such a great mom. And I hug my dad. And I want to thank Fritz and Sandy Beach and Cherry Crow and some of these magnificent people that carried this message to me again. I'm excited about it. I'm not eager, but I'm excited. And if I don't make it till tomorrow morning, tell them I was ready. And I had a great time. A friend of mine, Cliff from Oklahoma City, Cliff Gooding, don't go to bed tonight. Cliff Gooding says that when I walk through those pearly gates, God's going to say to me, I gave you sobriety on the 28th of June of 1984. What did you do with it? And I'm going to be able to tell him I had the privilege of sharing some of it with you tonight. Part of my morning prayer is I send love to the places I'm going to be each day and to the people I'm going to see. And I sent love to every one of you this morning before I got out of my bed. It was so important for me. I had an experience in meditation. I was sober about 3 years. I had my first sponsee who would live. And I was meditating one morning at about 3 years. And I usually don't see anything. These people that have these visions, good for you. I don't. I'm just sitting there counting my breaths usually. But on this one I did, and I could see Ron was in the front of the canoe. I was in the back right on the Buffalo River by the bluffs. And I could see it from my position in the back of the canoe and also from a place about 300 yards off the port side. And I was sitting there, this beautiful scene, these two men that loved each other, that loved recovery, that loved God and loved fishing. And my monkey mind, what the Buddhists called my monkey mind, spoke to me and said words to the effect of, Scott, you're rotten SOB. Here you are out on playing on the river with Ron when you're supposed to be trying to get close to God by meditating. You believe what you want. I believe what I'm about to tell you. God spoke to me. I heard his voice, and I heard it in my solar plexus. Didn't hear it in my ears. I heard it in my belly. And this gentle, gentle voice said, if you want to get close to me, work with my people. I came up out of meditation like stepping on a rake. It was one of the most startling things that's ever happened to me. And my ego, of course, knows no bounds. I am not a skyrocket to success here. And what I heard was that I, with my shiny 3-year ship, should help these poor people not as far down the path as I was. Took me about a year to realize it also meant to work for those that were further down the path than I was. But the fact is, if I want to get close to him, I work with you. Doesn't matter who. And it works every time. That's the path. That is the path. And I'm useful when I work with someone who I've got something for, also when someone who's got something for me. Both sides of that. There are no one-way streets in the kingdom. A friend of mine says God doesn't bring two alcoholics together to help one. He's more efficient than that. That's how he got the job. And I think that's right. A year or so after that event, it occurred to me, if I could ask God, this God who spoke to me in clear words, one question and get an answer, what is it? And I wrestled that question for about 6 months until I finally got my answer. It had to be inbound with all the spiritual principles as I understand them. And I finally got my question. And I'm going to share it with you about a month from today when you call me and tell me what your question is. But I don't want to take away from you the opportunity to give that some consideration. If I could ask the God of forever a single question, what would I ask him? I know what my question is, but I don't want to take away your chance to come up with your own question. We invited God here tonight, and I'm fully convinced that he came. If you borrowed my God tonight and you got touched, borrow him again. If you invited your God and you got touched, use that time at the beginning of the meetings to invite God to the meeting. And I have also tried to conduct myself in a manner that I thought would make him welcome. That means I had to clean up my language, by the way, among other things. And know that I love you from the depths of my soul. I'm going to put my contact information on the chat. And a month from today, if you have your question, contact me and we'll swap questions. I love you with all my heart. Thanks and good night.
Hey, Scott. So this is, that was beautiful, man. So good to hear from you tonight. So usually how we do this is the person who speaks calls on two people, just looks on this Hollywood Square thing and calls on two people, and then we'll open it up. So before that, can you just pick someone?
Yeah, Heidi, are you still here?
Is it Heidi?
Yeah, Heidi from Yankee Land. She was here. Is she gone? I ran her off.
No, she's here. She's getting on.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hi, my name's Heidi. I'm an alcoholic. Scott, thank you so much. And I love hearing your lessons that you have learned and that experience, strength, and hope in that emotional sobriety. You know, you have walked me through many times in my life where there's been gosh, without you, I don't know that I know how to do this stuff. You know, listening to your talks, and I was thinking about that today. We were talking about today how, you know, we get to rocket it into that place of right now. And one of the things that keeps me in emotional sobriety is that, you know, my prayers, they do start with today. When I have a problem, the solution has to start with today. Everything that I do is about today, you know, and if I bring the God of my understanding, really the God of my no understanding into today, you know, I can pretty much do absolutely everything that I'm supposed to do. I just want to thank you for telling on me. Thank you for speaking tonight, and it's just always great to hear your voice.
Thank you, Heidi. And Luke from Canada.
Alcoholic Luke, thank you, Scott, for your talk. The big thing I got from this is, you know, you mentioning about being a circuit speaker at 10 years of sobriety and opening up your heart to all of us of, some of the mistakes you've made on your journey, and talking about the ego and the pride, and me being still really, really new at this, just to start my journey with 2 years. You know, I could feel that come in. You know, I always call it the legend in my own mind sometimes. But listen to a guy that's got so much experience in this program, which I obviously look up to you. Getting from you, I start to understand that we are just humans, right? We are God's kids here, and there's no arrival place to get to. It's all about learning and making mistakes. And, you know, I've learned that through you and my sponsor on my journey to, you know, not beat myself up and make these mistakes, because it's how I'm going to grow. Just hopefully they're not big enough or they cause somebody too much pain, right? Thank you so much for your talk tonight, though, Scott. I love you. Thank you.
All right. So let's see here. If you would like to share, please raise your hand. For the next 30 minutes, we'll do a little bit of that. Hey, you know, Scott, sometimes I get to ask people questions. And one of the things that I wanted to ask you was, can you talk about what some people are working up the nuts, or working up the courage to share? Could you talk about some of, you've sat at the feet of some great people and met a lot of really cool people. Can you share a handful of, or a couple of your favorite experiences with some of the guys that have made the biggest impact in your life?
Yeah. Howard Poland's, by the way, do not even think about going to bed without getting 3 of Howard's talks. Howard was a nutcase of the first order. He will convince you in the first 2 minutes of his talk that he's just barely smart enough to chew and swallow. And he may have been the most intelligent man I ever shook hands with. He was the project engineer on the Apache helicopter. That's not a turkey, but he comes off like one. He's hiding it. But when I was suicidal at 25 years sober, he called me one day and he said, I need to share with you that as part of my job doing the helicopter, I studied survivable crashes, trying to do the engineering for this helicopter, which in part also let me look at unsurvivable crashes. And I decided to commit suicide by crashing my car. And I was sober a couple of years. And he had picked out a way to do it. And he was telling me the story. He was in the car on the way to do it. And he said, his very gentle voice said to him, well, you can do that. But the universe doesn't know if you've completed your mission or not. And if you haven't, you're going to have to come back and start all over again. And he said the idea of going through everything he'd already been through was more than he could stand, and it saved his life. And him calling me and saying that may have saved mine. And Sandy Beach, when he told me that that we all get off the path, he wasn't talking about relapse. He was talking about stupid. Anyway, we all get off the path, that the measure of my recovery is how quickly I get back on. And it took me a while to get back on. I thought I'd put myself outside of God's love. I think it's the greatest insult I've ever given God, because I had one of the big white light experiences. Other little things, Jerry Crow, went to him one time. I said, spiritual side of the program, this, and spiritual side of the program, that. If there's a spiritual side of the program, got to be at least one other side. What's the name of it? He said, there are 2 sides. There's the spiritual side and the drunk side. Pick one. That's some of what I got from those guys.
I remember when we went out to Mont Eagle with Don, and you brought Justin and I. That was a beautiful time, man. We blew those huge bubbles and stuff. I was married to, I was in the worst marriage when I met up with Scott. I was 18 and knocked up this girl in like rehab school and got married to her. And we fought so bad. And it was, I'd call up Scott and she'd be yelling at me in the background. I'd be yelling back at her. And then, we'd do that pause, like he'd say, well, why don't we stop, dear? This is getting heated, the family afterwards, or to the wife, this is getting heated. Why don't we talk about this later? And I tried that a couple of times. We don't get to stop this when you want to stop it. Blah, 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 blah. It's not going to be on your terms, and I'm like, I'm leaving, bitch. And I'd go out and shut the door, and I would be blowing those bubbles out on the front porch, and she'd come out, the hell are you doing? Are you blowing bubbles? Yeah, I'm blowing bubbles. Anyway, helped settle us both down, I think.
I'll tell you another great one is that part of our assignment is to learn to love the unlovable.
Yeah.
I have times when I'm unlovable, and that's when I need you not to judge me. I need you to love me. And it says our code is love and tolerance. For the earthlings, it's just love. They had to throw in tolerance for us. And tolerance, when I tolerate someone, what I've done is I've made a concerted effort to take loving actions towards someone I don't think deserves them. If I've got to tolerate them, it's because I've judged them, and I got to get out of that business. Thanks.
When you went into that really dark place when you were sober for a long time and everything just kind of fell apart and you stopped working with guys and just basically went off the radar, what was the light? What was the turning point in that when you started to turn and were able to get out of that, as things were starting to turn around?
I'm not sure. It was so difficult. My memory of it is pretty foggy. I never did take anything that would alter my mood. That was interesting. I had laid down the old answer and it didn't call to me. One of the most powerful things that happened to me is that I dropped all the men I sponsored. 3 of them refused to go. Now, I know they were getting spiritual help somewhere else because I sure didn't have any. They would not leave me alone. Those 3 guys saved my life. Somewhere in the fact that they continued to love on me and they didn't judge me. I still sponsor those 3 guys. And those 3 guys literally saved my life. Because when I needed the most, when I needed them the most, those 3 were there. They're still there. How do you repay that? You don't.
Beautiful. Giselle, I think Giselle has her hand up.
Yes. Hey, I'm an alcoholic. My name is Giselle. And Scott, you're very special to me. You took the time to talk to me when I was going through something, very difficult. And I'm happy to say that I am growing in that regard, and it's happening, and I am on the path. But I love listening to you. You talk it and you walk it, and God bless you. And I look forward to speaking to you again.
Thank you. And we have Maria S. from PA.
Hi, my name is Maria and I'm an alcoholic. I want to thank you, Scott. What a share. Oh my God. It was so powerful. And I could relate to so much of it. The suicidal thoughts, just burning your life. You torched your life up and it just rebuild, and you didn't drink, and the difference with me was that I did at 18 years. Because I just had this false idea of, a God. I didn't have that. I didn't hear, pausing. I didn't hear 10th step. I didn't hear anything about the 11th step. And so I had no foundation. I love when you talk about being in the present moment. I just recently went through to fourth and fifth step back to back. And I mean, it was one of the most difficult things. One of them was on my belief system, because I had a white light experience. I drank for 8 years after I relapsed. I was waiting to die. I'm an end stage alcoholic. And, you know, I started talk about that with me, and I would get very angry. I just think she didn't understand. And I just found out that I was waiting for another white light experience. I've had awakenings throughout the, you know, I'm almost sober by the grace of God, 13 years. And, you know, and I do the deal. You know, I pray, I meditate, I help a lot of people. But, you know, I have a chronic form of alcoholism. I have to be helping other alcoholics. I go into prison. I just came back from a home group. I have the hotline for a week. Yeah. And so, you know, I just love this way of life. I saw some truths that I hadn't seen as a child. I was blaming God for some atrocities that happened as a child, you know, as a young adult. And I grieved for 2 days. I didn't pray, I didn't meditate, I didn't read. It was the most painful thing that I experienced and the most lonely. But I got on the other side. I have to stay in the present moment. And I just thank you for sharing. And I loved Sandy Beach. I never met him, but I listened to him, and Don Pritz. I listened to him, and I just love all those old timers. I just want to thank you so much for sharing from your heart and sharing honestly. And bless you. That's all I have.
Thank you. I want to share with you that I when I tell my story, which I do a lot, I talk to so many people that had a white light experience like mine that drank again. That's not uncommon. It's only a cornerstone, but you have to build on it. And I don't think that event alone would have gotten me a 37-year chip. The rest of it was necessary. So if anybody who didn't have one of those, don't worry about it. They're not necessary.
Tom, you had a similar experience with a woman in Spain, right? That had that thing with Don Pritz, who kind of said the same type thing. Would you care to tell that story? Are you around, Tom?
Yeah, it's funny you remember that. I was just thinking about that. That's really funny. Scott, thanks so much. Great to see you 2 nights in a row, and with the clown nose both nights. It's thrilling. Actually, Scott was one of the people that I wrote to. Mike Lorenz and Scott, and I think a couple other people that I thought would appreciate it. But I was in Spain in 2011. I was in Barcelona, and we had gone to a meeting. Actually, we debated whether we wanted to go to an AA meeting, but we decided why not. It was at 7:30, and they they eat late in Spain. You know, they'll eat at 10 o'clock at night. And so we decided we'll go to the meeting and then we'll go out and eat. And there was also an Al-Anon meeting at the same time, and it was in English, both of them. So it made it more attractive. So anyway, we went to the meeting, and God, I haven't thought of this in quite a while. It's funny you asked about this, but so I said, we went to the meeting, and it was an okay meeting. There was a Dutch guy, and there was a guy from Los Angeles who was bitching about his life. I remember that. And then a Spanish guy who wanted to go to an English speaking meeting, and myself. And the woman that was chairing the meeting was, I assumed she was Russian, kind of based on some things she said, but, or no, I assumed that she was Finnish, because she said she traveled between Helsinki and Barcelona a lot. And her name was Ina, and she was kind of a big woman and blonde-headed. And at the end of the meeting, I mean, all these people just shared whatever, and I shared, about the steps from the big book, and most of them looked at me like I'd grown a head out of my neck, but Ina didn't, and so I stayed and was helping her clean up the meeting and put up the chairs. And I said, so Ina, I said, so you're Finnish? She goes, no, I'm Russian. And I said, you're Russian? I said, that's really interesting because my late sponsor brought the first legal AA. It wasn't the first AA in Russia, but it was the first legal AA that was brought there, that they had, it was condoned by the Russian government. And she looked like she'd seen a ghost, and she goes, was his name Don? And I said, yes. And she goes, oh my God. She goes, I translated for him all through their first trip to Russia. And she said, I was drinking during that time. I wasn't sober yet. And I'd gone back to Helsinki. And when Don and the entourage came through Helsinki coming back from Russia, he stopped in to visit me. And I was very, very depressed, and I was about to kill myself. And I really meant that I was gonna do it. And so, I told Don, I'm really going to kill myself. I think I will. I've been feeling suicidal for a long time, and I think I'm going to do it. And she goes, I'll never forget what he said. He said, well, Ina, you can do that, but the problem with that is there's a chance you're going to have to do it all again. And she goes, oh my God, I heard that, and suicide was off the table. She goes, he saved my life. And I thought, I almost didn't go to that meeting, but what were the chances of meeting a Russian woman in Barcelona, Spain, that had known Don and translated for him, and who said that he saved her life, And anyway, that was something. I mean, that's the stuff to stay awake for, to absolutely stay awake. Scott, it was great. Thank you so much. I was counting the years, and I've known you 27 years. And it's a long time, and I'm sure glad you're still with us. So, and hopefully we'll talk soon. Thank you for calling on me.
Thank you. Olaf, how you doing, man? Long time no see, buddy.
Good to see you. Thanks so much, Sam. Scott, I love you, Scott. I have the privilege and the honor of speaking to him every day because I can. He taught me how to spread love and joy. He taught me that it's not a good thing to play God. He taught me so much. Everything he's told you guys tonight, I've heard this over and over. And it's like I could listen to him read the phone book. It's all good. It's the same stuff. And I need to hear it again and again and again. The old ideas from of everything I knew yesterday at 12 noon yesterday. I love that. I haven't heard that in a long time. That's wow. Turning it over to God, and that prayer that you taught me one time, and I used it, and I believe. So just to share with you guys, my daughter 5 years ago made a decision to turn her belongings in her life over to the streets of Toronto. She lives outside, either in a tent or in a box or under the bridge, and she gave up her kids and the whole bit. And I learned a prayer from Scott, and it's like this. And after I heard the prayer, I got on my knees after I hung up, and I said the prayer, and I'm at peace with it. God, if it be your will, take her away. The way she's living, that's what's supposed to happen. God, if it be your will, leave her here and see what happens. And God, if it be your will for me not to know today, let me not know today. And that's what was making me crazy, not knowing. That needing to know why, and needing to understand would keep me up at night. That would make me absolutely berserk. But my assignment is being comfortable with not knowing, not asking why, and not needing to understand. And I can report progress. I can also report progress about the prayer about not being critical and not judging people. And you know what? It happened. It still happens in my head, but I don't say it. And there I can report the progress. I asked my wife, and she can confirm that thank you so much, Scott, for sharing with us. I'm so grateful. And thanks for this meeting. Thanks, Sam.
Thank you.
Dearly,
Thank you.
love you dearly, all of you. You said it so beautifully. It's not knowing that makes me crazy. It's needing to know that makes me crazy. And that's a management problem. Makes me just absolutely nuts. Yeah.
Sarah. Hey, I see you have I didn't see you had your hand up in that corner real quick because I was checking that there. The background was light. How are you?
That's okay. Hi, I'm Sarah. I'm an alcoholic, joining in from Frisco, Texas. I was bummed. I came in late, so I missed the first part of your share, but it was amazing. And it was exactly what I needed, like we always say. And, you know, I just hit 5 years yesterday. And I'm very grateful, so grateful for that. I never thought I would get there. It's just mind blowing. But with that said, I was like twisted bad yesterday. I was off, like, and today I was kind of off too. And I'm like, and I know it, you know, that's why I have to be reminded of all this stuff every single day, all day. I need to be reminded of all these beautiful tools that we've been taught. And I feel better in this like 30 minutes that I've been here in the rooms with people that I don't even know, but I know, you know, and I feel so much better. I'm getting untwisted. And I loved what you said about, well, so I want to hear your story again. And so I'm going to email you to find out when you're going to share again. And I might ask you a question or two about when you talked about motives, because I unfortunately catch myself using that term a lot. And I think it's a good thing. Well, as long as you have a good motive. And I'm like, dang it, I'm going to have to find a new word. And so I want to hear more about that. And, but the right here, right now, today, even though we say one day at a time, sometimes I need the 1 minute at a time. And, and then the part where you said, develop a hunger for the light. I was fortunate that I did that. It took me about a year to get there because my first year I was so sick. I mean, my brain was healing and getting clarity. The fog was lifting. And then I saw the tiny bit of the light and then I wanted more. And I got that hunger for more, you know, and it was just, I love the program so much that it's literally saved my life. And I wouldn't go back to that old life for anything. And I'm just, you know, even though I got twisted yesterday and all this stuff, you know, it's going to be okay. And then what I heard that Olaf just shared, not to crosstalk, but that I needed to hear that too, because I have a nephew that's struggling, and I'm getting a little squirrely with that. So thank you very much. And I will be calling you, I'll be emailing you. And again in a month with my question to God. So thank you. That's all I have.
Sarah, thank you so much. And I tell you, anybody who's got a problem with a relative that's doing something insane, Olaf is wise counsel. Believe me, I've sent a lot of people to him and will keep doing so. He's been doing this a long time and he is an absolute skyrocket. He has been such a joy to me. And Sarah, you are too. I look forward to hearing from you. I will send you my Zoom schedule app. Actually, my sponsor just gave me permission earlier today to start saying no to some of this. I only do one conference a month, but I'm doing an awful lot more of this, and I've been doing too much. The problem is it feeds something that needs to be starved.
No.
And Shar, I want to tell you, I think you're the next one you're going to call on. They should have charged you extra. You had more fun than anybody else. I was watching you most of the time I was talking, and I was so glad you were here. You made my talk easier because I got to talk to a human. It was you. Thank you.
Thank you. I am filled with joy right now. And, you know, I have been on the path for a minute, and my sponsor has been showing me love and compassion and everything you said. That's the way to be the love I want to others. And it's just taken me to, but I related to you because of the depression and that gut. When you said you felt it in your solar plexus, I had that same experience. It was God hit me in the solar plexus during a really crisis in my life when I was in this self-pity depression, and it hit me like a bat. And it was, this life is not about you. And it just took me back, and I got to get out permanently of this self bullshit. And I've been on a path of recovery that is just, I had thirst for God. I had this hunger, like you said, and I tore it up. I tore up into everything I could possibly get my hands on. In fact, I've been a student of the Course in Miracles for 5 years now. And it's still, I'm still like, now the emotional sobriety is like food. And I'm just so thrilled to have this experience with you. I just wanted to tell you that. And Olaf, I'm going to have to call you. I found out Tuesday that my oldest son, who's an addict, alcoholic, sociopath, has been arrested for assaulting my granddaughter and my grandson, and he's in jail. He's been doing this. I didn't start drinking until I was 59. And it was because I was trying to save these people and couldn't. I had to live, they had to go out of my life, and I had to pack them up and move them out of the country, out of the state. And then I went into a depression and I started drinking. But the way God works, I drank for 3 years, went over the top, and had that obsession and the compulsion and the ism. And then I broke free from that. Thank God for AAA, because I took my son to AA to get him sober. That's how I found it. But God had to give me the experience of the obsession and the craving and the physical allergy, so that when I got sober, I could see, without me knowing how it felt to be an alcoholic, I couldn't have let him go. I couldn't have just released him to God. And Olaf, that prayer right now that he's in jail, and I don't know what the outcome is, it was like, I came here and I got exactly what God needed me to have today. And I thank you. And thank you, Scott, for your wisdom and your blessings and all your suggestions.
Yeah, Nick, you had your hand up.
I do. What's up, guys? Nick,
Hey, Nick.
an alcoholic. Scott, man, like, there's so many things that you said that resonated with me right now. The usefulness thing, like, so I live in New Orleans. This week has been like a long year. But the last 4 days have been like, I just got power like 2 days ago, but the last 4 days have been pretty amazing. I've been able to go help my neighbors. I've been gutting houses. I've been having deep conversations with people. I sit down on the lawn and like while people were throwing away old things, and I can't explain it, but like it feels good to just be able to be the person that I somehow am right now, right? Like, and also it feels really good to not think about me for like 5 minutes, you know? But you said something that puzzled me. Talking about character defect, I think, and you said because there's nothing wrong with you. And that whole thought blows my mind. Because I feel like there is something wrong with me, and I don't know how to make me right. And I keep fighting with this, and I keep fighting with my character defect. And I've been praying. I hear everyone when they're like, God's got to do it, blah, blah, blah. But I keep judging myself. And I'm realizing that that maybe that's not supposed to be my role. And so you're going to have me thinking about that. Thank you for that. That's all I got to share.
Thank you. And we have Sonia from the UK, or did you want to hold on?
I want to say something else too, is I need to be careful, not only not judge myself, but I don't need to judge my spiritual progress or my spiritual growth, because growth and progress are not something I do. It's what I receive. If I'm going to judge anything, it's how well I'm doing the daily things that you have taught me to do. And I don't have to list them, you know what they are. I need to judge that. I got to keep an eye on that. But the growth comes when it comes, and the experiences come when they come. I have no power over that. Don't need to worry about it. Don't need to judge it. But I need to focus on action. This is always about what I do, not about what I feel, understand, believe, none of that. The day before I got to recovery, how I feel is the most important thing in my life. I made all my choices. Today, how I feel is the single least important thing in my life, because I cannot allow how I feel to affect what I do. What I feel will not keep me in recovery. What I do will. Thank you.
Also want to tell everybody, if you want to hear, there's tons of talks on Scott, but if you want to go to like xaspeakers.org and you want to look at it, listen to a great step workshop, the ones that you and Bob D did with the Fox retreat, get on the 4-step, listen to the step workshops on those. They're phenomenal. And the 4-step one, if you haven't heard that workshop, I mean, it's a game changer. Sonia?
I'm Sonia, and I'm very grateful alcoholic. Hi, Scott. Thank you so much for your talk. Last night I found a talk. I'm in the UK and it's 3:00 and I can talk because my daughter's not here. She's at her boyfriend's, yay. So I can watch late meetings in my bedroom and talk. Otherwise I'm not allowed. I have to whisper like this. Anyway, she's not here. And I found a emotional sobriety workshop last night, right? And if I'm not looking at the camera, I'm like this because I've got my tablet and I'm taking notes on my tablet because it's a bit difficult to write in bed. And I did a page of notes tonight, last night, but tonight I did a page and a half of notes and I had to shorten things, and some things aren't spelt right, but it corrected some things for me. And I'm learning so much, and you've taught me so much. And one thing that really stuck out to me is that I'm always judging people up here, you know, the way they look at me, the way they speak to me, pulling out in front of me. And yeah, if I have a day where I'm in quite a peaceful mood and I've said my prayers before I go out, and I let people go, and I'm very gentle and not rushed, and I'm relaxed about my driving, I find that at the end of my destination, I feel a lot happier than if I've rushed and, oh, they can't pull out in front of me. I'm first. Me. Yeah. So yeah, I'm going to have to watch judgmental. And I wrote down what you said, to ask God not to, whatever it was, not to let me be judgmental. I wrote it all down and I'll read it out in the morning, and then I can write my prayers properly. So thank you so much. I've learned a lot, and I look forward to the next talk on emotional sobriety tomorrow night, whoever it might be. This is obviously what God wants me to learn. Thank you so much.
So just a quick plug before we end. If you, again, that xaspeakers.org, there's several websites like that. You can get on YouTube, but Scott's got a lot of great talks. Tom and Juanita, if you haven't heard any of their stuff, their workshop, the FOTS workshop in Arizona, is fantastic. Gary Brown and Bob Olson did some amazing stuff on there. Don P., if you've never heard of Don Fritz, any of these people that you are talking about, Howard Polans, any of these guys, Sandy Beach, if you haven't heard these guys, you can get on there and just listen to them for free. Like it's a great service. So
Can you tell me what Howard's name is? Because I wrote Tolans.
Howard Polans. So Howard P. Just put Howard P.
Okay.
All right. So anyway, and one last prayer before we leave. Scott, will you talk about that prayer that Olaf, expound on that prayer that Olaf talked about, that how your greatest fear, because I've used that for so long with fear, like if it's your will for this to happen, I'm not asking for it, but go ahead and send it and give me peace with it. And, if it's not, then the opposite. And then the not knowing part, give me peace in the not knowing. That's such a great prayer.
Yeah, there were two pieces. The first one is I moved out of the home my first wife and I were living in when I was sober 6 years, and I didn't believe in divorce, and yet I knew if I stayed with her, I was going to hit her because she used to control me with my guilt, and I was guilty. And I went through the steps, got my innocence back. She couldn't control me, and as an untreated Al-Anon, her drug of choice is control. And if she was sitting next to me, I'd tell this that she couldn't change a word of it, and I would tell it if she was sitting here. But I realized, and so I went to Old Timers and I said, I don't believe in divorce, and yet I think if I lived with her, I'm going to hit her because I had moved out. What should I do? And they said, turn it over. I said, how? And they couldn't tell me. So I went to the source, and believe what you like, I believe what I'm about to tell you. And that's that the first thing I realized is what I turn over is the results. And so I was given the gift of 3 prayers. Prayer number 1 was, God, if it's your will for us to be together, put us together. Prayer number 2, if it's your will for us to be apart, put us apart. Those are the easy ones. Here's the big one. God, if it's your will for me not to know today, leave me not knowing. That's the one. When I can pray that one and mean it, I can have my sponsor's definition of serenity. He said, serenity is not freedom from the storm. Serenity is peace in the middle of the storm. The only way to have that is to give up my need to manage the storm. And the only way to do that is to know the manager of all storms. And not too long after that, I came back to the house and found my daughter in a pool of blood in her bed. And I don't tell this part of it very often, but I knelt down and I said, God, if it's your will to take her, take her. If it's your will for her to stay here a mess, okay. If it's your will for her to recover, okay. And I'm not holding myself as a shining example. I think I have clearly established I am not one. But I was able, because of what you had done with me, I was able to hold the most precious thing in my life in an open hand up to a God who is worthy of that and say, thy will, not mine, be done. What a phenomenal gift that was. I think the fact that I could do that saved a young man's life, because the man that came to you in the summer of 1984 was probably capable of first-degree murder, and it could have happened around that. Didn't have to. I didn't even have to put a glove on him. It was astonishing. And I've watched some other people do some amazing things. God, I love you people with all my heart, and running around in my head is all the things I didn't get to cover tonight. But I sure had a wonderful time. Sam, thank you again. Thank you.
And there's another, we'll do a part 2. We'll invite you back in a couple months and you can do a part 2. How about that? The continued version. And hey, the way we do this meeting is we mute ourselves and we go to our inner room and we say the Lord's Prayer to ourselves for those who care to join us. So we just have a moment of quiet and go inside and say that. Love you guys. Thank you.
Nice party, Sam. Thanks for having me. I had a great, it was a great experience for me. Thank you. What a wonderful group of people.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
man. Yeah.
Thank you, Sam.
Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
guys.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Scott.
See you
Great
next
meeting.
week.
Scott.
Thanks, all of
Thank you,
you.
everybody.
God
Thank you,
bless y'all.
Sam. Thank you, Scott. Have a great week. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Scott. You're just
Great to see
amazing.
you guys.
Love you so much.
Thank you. Great to see you.
Bye-bye.
I sent you a text message, by the way.
Bye-bye.
Okay, Giselle, it's good to see you.
Great to
Yeah,
see you.
I prayed for you for quite a while. Now you've dropped off my prayer list. It looks like you're doing all right.
I am. God bless you. Thank you. Was I supposed to call back? I will call. Oh,
You're certainly welcome to.
you.
But no, I thought we covered it. But
Thank
I
you.
continued to pray for you and for somebody else with you for some time after that.
Thank you. Thank you. I think it worked.
I think so too.
Yeah, I hope our Don is okay.
All right, guys, much love. Scott, thanks for a great night. We'll
Love
have
you,
back
Sam. Look
here,
forward to
but we'll
seeing
have
you.
We'll have to do the Scott League continued in another couple months. if
All
you're up
right.
for it. All right.
Good night, kids.
Good night, guys. See ya.